For example, the iPhone is going to be 13 this year, so it's 12 years old. And the App Store has been available for just over 10 years. When the App Store opened, there was no such job as a mobile app developer. But today, there are millions of them worldwide. There weren't cloud specialists, there weren't chief listening officers, there weren't social media experts 10 years ago. So how can you possibly think about what jobs will be available for your students 10 years from now? It's really not possible. So this in itself is a huge challenge. And as I say, we're seeing this technology permeate into every single type of industry, creating a user-centric experience in businesses all around the world. You can see there from farming to healthcare to industrial organizations, all using technology. Technology empowers people to create amazing things. That's what many of us do with the technology we have available to us. If we look at some of these examples up on the screen behind me, top left, you may recognize that's the NASA rover, Curiosity, that was sent to Mars to explore the surface of Mars so we could understand more about our place in the galaxy. The girl in the middle there is 9 years old. She was 7 when she developed an app for her sister. Her sister absolutely loved animals, and so she wanted to help her be able to identify animals more easily. So she built an app. She was 7. She built an app, put it on the App Store, and her sister and now millions of other kids are now using that. She came to our developers conference and was asked what she wanted to be when she grows up. And she said, I want to be an entrepreneur. Little realizing, of course, that she already was at 9 years old. This one bottom in the middle there, that's a pill that contains a sensor. It's to help track people that don't take their medication. Slightly sinister, that one, I have to say. And then finally, bottom right, this is a piece of machinery that we use at Apple called Daisy. And what Daisy does is she extracts the rare metals from used iPhones so they're available to be used in the new ones that we're building. We have a goal, in fact, to make sure at some point that we take nothing further from the earth for our products, but simply use this closed loop to recycle and then manufacture new products. So in that case, we're trying to minimize the impact on our own earth. So the crazy thing is that technology with this sort of power is available to our students today. They can do things that we never thought possible. You know, stop animation. They can use that with just an iPad and some clay and maybe a little green cloth, where previously you needed a dedicated room just to doing that. So it really, really does empower students. And therefore we start from the premise that every learner is a creator and has the potential to do something that changes their world. So I leave you therefore with a question. What's the impact you want technology to have with your students? Now while you think about that, a few months ago we asked a team of our creatives. These are the people that work in our retail stores around the world. They're young, they dress in ways that are not like this. They really, really are engaged with technology in the way they used it. We asked them to say, what would school look like to you if you had your way? And this is what they came up with. Volume, please.
Eyes up here, we're not done. Group 3, let's have Ivy and Michael, Ryan, Sally, and Thomas. Thomas, your homework is to explore gravity. Okay, don't forget, projects are due on Friday. Friday, please. Friday, and don't forget your homework.
Homework. Oh, homework. I hate you. You stink. I wish I could wash you away in the sink. If only a hippo would smash you to bits. Homework. Oh, homework. You're giving me fits. I'd rather take baths with a man-eating shark, or wrestle a lion alone in the dark, eat spinach and liver, pet 10 porcupines, then tackle the homework my teacher assigns.
Action. Dad.
Homework. Oh, homework. You were last on my list. I simply can't see why you even exist. If you just disappeared, it would tickle me pink.
Next up, Group 3.
Homework. Oh, homework. I hate you. You stink.
So if you want to create engaging learning experiences for your students, that's the sort of thing that they're looking for. Anyway, as I mentioned, we all know that technology has a role in learning. And at Apple, when we think about its purpose, there are some basic things that we look at where we think there is that opportunity to raise the bar. We believe that all technology should provide access, basic skills, and creating. This is really at the heart of what we think technology should enable. And you might say to yourself, but I'm already doing these things with technology at my school. But I would challenge you to ask that perhaps there are ways that you can use technology to its full potential, perhaps. So if we would start with access. In many ways, often people think of access as simply providing a device with access to the internet, with productivity tools maybe, workflow, and maybe some online assessment. And there's nothing wrong with this at all. Don't get me wrong. These can drive tremendous efficiencies through the use of technology. But we don't believe that it's enough to stop there. Every student learns in a different way. And technology has that unique ability to be able to address the multiple learning needs of different students. For example, some students might be kinesthetic learners. That is, that they learn by engaging and touching and moving around with things. They can't do that if they're using a fixed computer in a classroom somewhere in a school. But if they're using a mobile device of some kind and they can go out and explore the environment around them, then they can engage more closely with their learning. Others may have other special learning needs, and I will actually come back to that later on in my talk to talk about what Apple is doing in the area of accessibility. But these tools also help students with different learning challenges to be able to learn in new ways. So the example of this school, this is a school in Düsseldorf in Germany, and like many schools, it's had to cope over the last few years with quite a wave of immigrants coming in to the school, with students being, displaced students being placed into the school. In fact, within the 300 pupils in the school, there are 32 different nationalities, and of the 38 staff, nearly 10% of them speak, German is a second language for them, and they themselves represent 10 nationalities. So when you have a challenge like this, in the case of the pupils, 20% of them don't speak German as a native language. How do you help them learn? And accessibility tools can provide incredible ways to help you learn through a second language by using features such as text-to-speech. So you can be learning in your own native language, but having the device read through things in the language you're learning through. So at the same time, you can be learning the subject area you're within and learning the language of that subject as well. So this is an incredibly powerful way of learning. The other thing we've seen is, these children are scared, they're in a different environment, very often they might have lost their family, and technology is something that they all have in common. It's something they can group around, and it creates a common bond, and therefore you can build on that within the classroom. So we always say that there are different ways of access than perhaps the more traditional ones. If we look at basic skills, I think we will all agree that mastery of reading, writing, and arithmetic is still incredibly important. But technology has a role to play there as well. Take mathematics, for example. Instead of just maybe reading a book or listening to what a teacher has to say, you could do that, but then perhaps you could watch a video because there was a concept you didn't understand. Or you might play a game which actually illustrates those concepts in action. Or you might be doing algebra, and you can actually envisage on the screen an algebraic formula. And through augmented reality, you can place that in the real world. So what does the algebraic formula for a code really look like? And how can I use that in the real world? So you can really engage people in just these basic skills areas. But we would argue now there is far more to the basic skills that students need than just reading, writing, and arithmetic. Digital citizenship, that the skills they need to be able to behave within the digital environment is incredibly important. I think we probably all agree that previous generations have not behaved quite as well as they could within the digital world. And therefore it's important that our students understand, that they understand the implications of what they do within that digital world. A digital ability, that ability to be able to take the tool that is necessary to do a task. Which digital tool do I use to do a particular task? We know students hop, don't they, from application to application in their social world. The same thing applies, is how do we help them understand which digital tool is best to use in which situation? And finally, coding. Coding is something that we fundamentally believe is becoming a fourth basic skill that everyone needs. Coding is coding is around us. Coding runs our world today. And it's important, therefore, that first of all, students understanding how coding works, but it also provides them with other skills: critical thinking, collaboration, communication. In developing apps is very often a team game. They also need design skills. They need marketing and sales skills, entrepreneurial skills. So we fundamentally believe that coding is important, and again, I will return to that later on. This is a really good example. I love this example. These are students in China who are learning to write complex language, Chinese script. Again, they're using technology to augment their learning. And what they're doing is they're videoing each other as they do that script. And then they're able to watch the video and reflect on their learning with each other later on. And I always loved this example, but I thought, yes, that's fine in China with such a complex scripted language. But what about, in Europe? And just 3 months ago, I was at a school in Norway, and I saw this very thing happening right in front of me. Learning Norwegian, 2 of them working together with their devices, so they were able to reflect and review later on. So again, augmenting what is, one would think, the oldest skill that we possess. And then in terms of creating, technology already offers fantastic ways to create assets. You can make videos, you can do stop animations, you can make a radio program. Really great ways to express yourself. But again, we believe creativity goes further than that. What really engages students is when they can create with purpose. In your schools, if you give students a project to go away and think about a subject that's cross-curricular, what's one of the first things they often do? They'll go and do something around the environment. It's incredibly close to their hearts, and they'll come up with some kind of project around the environment. It's because they're creating something that is special to them, that they are passionate about, And therefore, when they create something, they're creating with purpose. Another example up there is some students who were interested in memory loss and the onset of dementia. And so they engaged with hospitals and doctors. This was in Brazil. They engaged with hospitals and doctors across Brazil to learn more about it. And then they wrote an app to help doctors identify the early onset of dementia and Alzheimer's. And that is now being used in hospitals across Brazil. So again, they're so engaged because they're creating something that has real use in their world. It gives them a sense of purpose about what they're learning. But we know it takes more than technology. That's only part of the story. It takes inspired teachers, and above all, it takes a really clear vision as to what you want to do with technology. You may be surprised to hear it from a company such as Apple, but we believe technology is only a tool. Yeah? It's not something that will perhaps be used all the time. That doesn't matter. But when it is needed, it can fundamentally change what a learner is doing, and it can fundamentally change that learning experience. If we look at Apple, we have a clear vision that keeps us focused, yeah? Everything we do is about creating amazing products that enrich people's lives. And again, nowhere is this more relevant than in education. And our vision keeps us focused on creating these things that help people. If you look at our history, our ability to innovate and build new products is because we're looking at the impact that they will have on us as human beings. What can we take away? So with the personal computer, we started the computing revolution. iTunes and the iPod revolutionized the way we listen and consume music. The iPhone was the start of the smartphone revolution, which has probably impacted every single one of our lives in this room today. We believe the iPad started to change the way people think about a computer and what it is. And we feel that is a device that will have a big impact in education when we look back. And we're also looking at things now about the way that people pay for things or identify themselves. Again, these are all things that are innovation, but they were intended to deliver benefit to us as human beings. But it's not also important about what we make, it's important about how we go about making it as well. And we think it's important that you know the community in which we operate, the community in which our products are being used, that you understand what our beliefs, yeah, as an organization, and how we build that into our products. On the environmental side, we are already at the point where 100% of our offices, our Apple factories, our retail stores, all run on 100% renewable power. Our current MacBook Air, our current iPads, they're all made from recycled products. And as I say, we have a goal that within the next few years, every product we made will be made within a closed loop. We won't take anything further out of the earth to make our products. On supplier responsibility, at Apple we work with around 17 million people worldwide, helping to build and ship our products. So we enforce a really supplier code of conduct to make sure that they provide the right living conditions for their workers, that they provide opportunities for education. It's important, and we continue to work with them as well to make sure that they look at the whole area of the environment, that they're using renewable energy and other things along our lines. In inclusion and diversity, we believe a diverse workforce is a more productive one, and we believe that technology is something that can support inclusion and diversity in society as a whole. Privacy and security, we believe privacy is a fundamental human right, and I'm going to touch on that a little bit more in terms of its importance to education. Accessibility, this is something that Apple has built into its products for 25 years. Every product we make is accessible. If you buy yourself, say, an Apple MacBook and open the box, open the lid, and just leave it, after 30 seconds, it'll ask you if it can help. because it's assuming that perhaps you can't see what's on the screen and perhaps you're going to need some help. So we try and think that the products that we build for everyone, and by everyone we mean each and every person. So we want anybody to be able to use our products. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about accessibility later on. And finally, education. As well as a market for us, this is one of our core values. We believe in the power of education, and that's why education has been at the heart of what Apple does for more than 40 years. We believe as an organization, we work at the intersection of the humanities, liberal arts, and technology. So we're human-centered, user-centered, not technology-focused. So if we have a great innovation, we don't necessarily put it into a product just to show that we can do something. We put it into a product when we believe it has a use, that people can get use out of our technology. And that's exactly the way that we look at education. It's not, you need iPads because that's what all schools are doing, not at all. It's, what do you hope to do from a pedagogy aspect? What are the challenges you face in your school with respect to teaching and learning? Why are my teachers overworked? How can technology help? These are the way that we approach it. And it may be, or it may not be, that our technology is the solution in the end. But it's very much a focus on education, not education technology. When it comes to education, we believe that powerful technology, alongside great teachers, can unlock this genius that lies within every learner. We know that kids love to learn when given the opportunity, if only sometimes you can unlock that within them. 40 years ago this was true, and it's still true today. And so I want to touch on 3 areas where we hope that we can help you be successful when thinking about deploying technology in your schools. And I talk about how we design products for learning, the sorts of products that we actually produce for teachers and for learners, and the support that we provide to educators and to schools. So if I start first of all with products for learning, at the heart of what we do really is product, there's no doubt about it. We have a complete ecosystem of hardware and apps and services for education, all working together to provide a seamless way of engaging students. But each of them is designed with learning in mind. For example, augmented reality has that ability to bring learning to life. I talked earlier about kinesthetic learners, but it can be hard to get your students maybe to a museum to see works of art or to engage them through other ways. Bringing that world to life through a device shows the power of something like augmented reality and really engages students within the learning opportunity. So in this case, you're visualizing the walls of an art gallery, being able to see the works of art in situ, or in fact, up on the walls of your classroom. To be able, with your device, to walk up to them and look in detail at what is being done, something you could otherwise only do if you have the opportunity to go to that museum. You can get close enough to see brush strokes and real detail within these pictures. In fact, you could say in some ways it's better than a museum. I've talked about accessibility before, but I think this is particularly pertinent in education. So in Western Europe, around 20% of students have some kind of special learning need. That's the average across. So that means in each of your classrooms, 1 in 5 students has some kind of special learning need. And we feel very often students with special learning needs, especially those who are in mainstream education. So these are students who might be on the autism spectrum, they're students that might be dyslexic, or have attention deficit disorder. They're the students that get lost, yeah? Because they're the students who typically say they can't keep up. Yeah? They're not able to learn with the other students because they don't understand what's going on. And we believe that technology is incredibly powerful to help address these needs. And so we build all these different types of features into each and every one of our products to help students with any type of learning difficulty. So it could be a severe disability, so it could be blind. If you think of an iPhone or an iPad, it is just a sheet of glass. But if you're blind, you can interact and use that device just as a person with sight can. You can even do such things as write code as easily as someone who is sighted. But even down to little things like being able to change the contrast of the text or the colours that are portrayed helps people whose brains are just slightly different. It allows them to start from the same place as everybody. Everybody is on an equal platform and able to learn. So we believe that this is something that is fundamental in terms of the needs of students. And the same thing comes to privacy and security. You know, as we race towards this new technology future, the opportunity, and we hear a lot about it, the opportunity to lose sight of privacy is extremely easy. It can happen too easily. At Apple, we feel your data, your photos, your health data, your bank details, all of this is yours. We don't sell this, we don't use it for any purpose whatsoever. A lot of people talk about the cloud and the power of the cloud. If you upload things to the cloud can do wonderful things. I kid you not, an iPhone today is so powerful, it can do everything that the cloud can do on the device itself. It can process hundreds of thousands of your photos, for example, and recognize hundreds of thousands of different objects. If you have one, just search in your photos for smiling people, and it will give you all the photos you've got, people smiling. Yeah? This is the cloud, this is artificial intelligence at work, but it is happening just on your device. It's not being shared with anybody, it's not being sold for profit. And we believe this is incredibly important. There are some really powerful trends that people are talking about at the moment in education. I'm sure somewhere at this EDUCAUSE show, someone has talked about artificial intelligence, machine learning. Fantastic. Great opportunities to help teachers in the future. I think artificial intelligence has great promise in helping teachers and education systems drive interventions to help personalize learning to the student. But it also comes with huge privacy implications. If you're using artificial intelligence to capture data about learning, who should that belong to? Really, it belongs to the student. Should they be given the opportunity to choose who they share their learning data with? So we make sure that from a privacy aspect, we build this into our products. And when we're developing new products, new services, we're always looking and seeking to understand what the privacy implications are. And this is something I talk to with governments and other organizations a lot to help them understand what the implications are, because it can be so easy to dive into these things and not take them into consideration. Next, I want to talk about our products for education. The iPad, I make no bones about it, the iPad is our principal device that is used in schools around the world. There are hundreds of millions of them in schools around the world. And as a device, they come with an amazing array of apps for free, Keynote for presentations, GarageBand to create music, iMovie to make your own videos. And they literally allow you to create almost anything you could possibly imagine. In addition to this, though, there's a few products that we build specifically for educators. So for teachers, we have an app called Classroom. And think of Classroom as your digital teaching assistant. Yeah? It helps you keep an eye on what's happening in your class. It allows you to give out iPads to your students if they don't have their own one. So you can quickly personalize a device. Their name will appear on the front of the iPad, they pick it up, and it's got all their work on it, ready to go. So Classroom also allows you to see what they're looking at. But of course, because of privacy, we let the student know that you're watching. It allows you to lock those devices. So instead of having to say, could you please put your books or iPads down face down, All you can do is quickly lock it, get attention for the moment, unlock the devices so they can use them. So it helps get that focus when you need it. And of course you can use it to open students to a common piece of work. Today, class, we're all going to read this particular chapter from this particular book. Boom, it opens on every single student's iPad and they're ready to go. So as I say, thinking of it as a digital teaching assistant. So for example, you as a teacher, you have 20, 30 students in your class. You can see by using Classroom perhaps who's struggling and who's ahead of where they need to be on the work. So you could perhaps group the advanced students over there, let them work on something, while you can go over here and help the student who needs a little bit of assistance. At the same time, still being able to keep an eye on the other students in the class. And we complement this with an app called Schoolwork. Now, Schoolwork is about, as I said, complements classwork. It's about personalizing learning experiences to students, yeah? So teachers can share class materials, they can assign activities to the student, not just activities in terms of please go away and do this, but for example, they might assign an activity within an app. Yeah, so there might be a quiz within an app, such as Kahoot. And they say, right, I want you to do this quiz, go away and do it. So you tap on it, it takes you to the quiz within that app. The student does the quiz, and when they're finished, the results are returned back to Schoolwork. So you as a teacher can see how your classes are doing, how long they spent doing that particular activity, what scores they got, where they had problems, which questions they had problems with. And again, that can then inform the next assignments that you give, which can be personal to one student, or it could be for the whole class. And of course, you can get them to do the assignment, using the tool of their choice, something that expresses their learning in a manner that suits their particular learning style. So again, another free app that we, if you're using iPads, we urge you to try to help you in the classroom. But in addition to hardwares and apps, one of the other things we were asked by schools, by educators, is are there areas that perhaps Apple could contribute curriculum? Because there are areas where we have expertise, could we maybe help in terms of curriculum? And it turned out there were a few areas where we felt that we could help. And before we go into that, let's see what some students had to say.
I think that I'm creative because I have lots and lots of ideas.
I thought that creativity was one thing and like school was another thing.
Everyone can make something creative.
Just having an idea and just showing it to the world.
You can do, honestly, anything. There's painting, drawing, photography.
Singing, writing, books.
Well, I'm the best at doing drawing, and I'm the best at doing leprechaun houses.
I'd much rather make a video than do a paper.
We all have different minds, different thoughts on our heads.
When a teacher gives you freedom and you can learn in your own way, it definitely enhances the learning experience.
I did all hexagons, like one hexagon here, one hexagon here, one hexagon, one hexagon, one hexagon, one hexagon, and then one hexagon.
Transitions, pictures, links.
I could click and drag it however I want.
Like flying through the wind.
It just lets me take what's in my head and put it outside of my head. That didn't sound right, but...
If you can enjoy what you're doing when you're working, I feel like you'll remember that moment.
You're not going to remember something that was boring.
It makes me enjoy doing homework and working on projects like that, and that's really cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Creativity and learning go hand in hand.
I like learning new things because then I get smarter.
I did this, and I created something that's, unique and special to me.
I feel proud of my work and proud of myself.
It just makes me feel like, yes, you can do it. You can create something.
Just keep learning and then you'll get the hang of it. And then I color it.
Have you ever seen such passion for hexagons? So of course the first of these is in the area of creativity. Now creativity, according to the World Economic Forum, will be one of the most demanding in-demand skills in 2020. Here we are in 2020. Creativity is an area where we think Apple has long excelled. If you think back, our products really were first used in the creative industries. And so given that we have this long history with creativity, this is an area we felt we could contribute to. And that was a help. The idea was to bring more creativity into learning. Yeah? So with the help of educators both outside and within Apple, we created Everyone Can Create. And this is a curriculum for teachers that can be integrated across grades and across subject areas, but it's designed to help teachers bring the skills and techniques required for creative expression. So we have a number of different guides, and the 4 areas that we focus on are music, drawing, photo, and video. And these guides are available in Finnish for free for you to use within your own curriculum. And they consist of student guides. Student guides are wonderful. I use them. I'm a keen photographer. I use the photo student guide to help me learn a little bit more about photography. So we could use them ourselves just as our hobbies. But they are designed for the students to help them understand, to give them some creative projects that they can do. And it has step-by-step instructions how to do this. For the teacher, we provide guides on how these lessons can be used in different subject areas. So how might you use video in mathematics? How might you use drawing in history? Whatever it might be. And there's all sorts of different content within there, including rubrics and so forth for teachers to use. Let's say these are free resources. They're being used already by hundreds of thousands of educators across the world. So I urge you to take a look at those. The second one is in the area of coding. Again, I stressed the importance of coding. We have put together some curriculums around coding. The first of these is the Everyone Can Code program. And this is for younger learners. And effectively, it's got the same sorts of guides for teachers and students, but it uses an app called Swift Playgrounds that runs on the iPad. It has an environment and characters that you program to move around their world using Swift code. And this is the code so Swift is our programming language that we use to power all our devices, TVs, iPads, Macs, everything. They're using that code, real life code, but they're learning through this visual expression of how to, the outcome of their coding. And again, fantastic for helping strengthen critical thinking skills. We also provide some coding kits for coding clubs. So if you want to do coding, outside a school, there's guides here as how to set up coding clubs. Develop in Swift is the next stage. If you discover that coding is something you really love, then this is where you use a Mac to develop full-blown Swift apps. These are apps that eventually, if you so wish, and if you have an app that is right, these are apps that can be sold by your students on the app stores, if they so wish, or they're apps that could be used in the school for some kind of purpose. Yeah. So and there are also industry-recognized certifications for this as well. So it's a complete coding curriculum from block-based coding the whole way through to building apps that could be used by millions of people around the world. Finally, I just want to finish off with the help that we provide to teachers. As I say, we know that teachers are the most important resource in education. And for us, it's of real importance that when technology is put into classrooms, that teachers really understand how to use it. And by how to use it, I don't mean how to switch it on and off. What I mean is, how do you take this technology and how does it help me be my pedagogy? How does it help me in my classroom with my teaching? How do I integrate it across my curriculum? We have different ways that we do this. First of all, we have a resource called Apple Teacher. This is an online web-based resource where you can go in, teaches you some of the basics about using the products, and then some of the basics about how to use this in different areas of the curriculum. And at the end, you get a badge for being an Apple Teacher. You can also get a badge for being a coding Apple Teacher, and it continually evolves with new exercises to do, new information available to you. So it's a complete learning centre available on any of our platforms for you to use. And you can see there on the left all the different types of badges and things that you can collect as you go along. And I've gone into some schools where they've got a photo of every single one of their Apple teachers on the wall as you enter the school. So it does seem to motivate them. Available in 31 countries and 12 different languages as well. So it's available here in Finland. The second thing we have is Apple Professional Learning. Now this is, as I said, where schools buy devices. For us, it's really important that they get the most out of those devices. So Apple Professional Learning is a program that we support. Our Apple Professional teachers are teachers. They are not Apple employees, they are teachers by trade, but they are incredibly passionate about education, and they are incredibly passionate about education. And they will help you design training programs for your school to get the most out of technology. And what they will do is they will build sustainable training programs for you. Because there's no point in just doing some initial training and then stopping and say, get on with it. But how do you keep that learning culture alive? How do you, as a teacher body, to continue to learn from each other and improve your use of technology within the classroom? But none of this is possible without making it really easy to bring stuff into school, to bring devices into the classroom. So we work every day to try and make it easier and easier for you to manage and deploy both our devices, the content, the apps. We do this through an interface called Apple School Manager. One place where you can manage absolutely everything to do with technology in your classrooms. We make it fit in with some of our partners, such as Microsoft, so that if you're using Microsoft systems within your school, you want to use your Microsoft logins, that's perfectly possible. If you want to use Office on your iPad, perfectly possible. But at the same time, you still have the power of many of these other creative applications that I talked about, some of the ones for managing your classroom. We just try and make it as easy as possible to use this device within learning. And there's a lot of resources available for you online. And then finally, support for schools in the broader term. As I say, I spend a lot of my time working with governments to look at the challenges in education and think about ways that technology can perhaps address these. It's really important for us that this happens. That if technology stagnates in schools, if it doesn't work, if it's seen as a barrier or an overhead, worst of all, if it finds its way into a cupboard and doesn't get used, then we, as an organisation, have failed. That's no good for anybody. So we continue to work to help governments and school systems understand the role of technology and how it should be used, to give guidelines available for people. And in addition, we have resources for you as leaders and teachers to use as well, that goes through some elements of thinking about how you might work with technology, how you might deploy it, how you might plan for it, how you might build a training program. Again, available free of charge for you to take a look through if you so wish. I mean, it will help you with any technology deployment, not just an Apple one. So I truly believe that technology really has that opportunity to unlock the genius in every child. But what I would say to you is it's not about the technology, it's about education. It's about being needs-driven. What are the needs in my classroom? What do I need to be able to do with my students? And then how can technology help me do it? That's the way we look at it, and the way we hope you will look at it too. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me today. I hope it's been useful to you and provided some insight. As I say, please take a look at some of these resources. I'm sure you'll find them helpful, whatever you do in your further developments. Thank you very much indeed.